So if you're assigned to Cadet 14, for example, one of your primary job descriptions is to muster on the fantail, provide CO2, or provide AFFF. Now that would only be in the event of an emergency squad type of reaction. For a man overboard, an abandoned ship, muster fantail. So for emergency squad, muster fantail, you're the person we're going to call on if we need extra CO2 to the scene of a fire. Now, if you're going to bring CO2 to the scene of the fire as requested by the scene leader, then you don't want to grab the one that's necessarily the furthest away from the location of the fire. You want to know where all these bottles are throughout the ship, all 39 of them, and go to a safe location as close as possible to the scene and provide that extra CO2. And haul off the other bottles while you're at it so they're not flying around, creating a trip hazard. Now, in the event we're calling for extra AFFF, well, you need to know where it's all located. I'm in the engine room right now, so behind me, there are 4 5-gallon barrels of concentrated AFFF. So there's 20 gallons down here in the engine room, right next to fire station number 7. Now, if you start forward and work your way aft, the 4 locations where these 20 gallons are stored, they're strategically located throughout the ship. We just don't put them all in one place, because what if the fire is in that place? So, starting forward and working our way aft, we've got number 1 hold. As soon as you go into that quick-acting watertight door from the passageway into number 1 hold, look to your right. There's 4 barrels, 4 5-gallon barrels for 20 gallons. Working our way aft, the next one that's located aft would be in the port side passageway, just underneath the ladder. As you're going up towards the bridge from the main deck, there's 4 barrels there as well. And then we have these 4 down here in the engine room. Those are the next one aft. And then finally, all the way back in the athwartships passageway in officers' country, right next to fire station 13, there's 4 more barrels. This device, in the illustration, is maintained in the repair locker, port side passageway right outside of the hospital treatment room, a mechanical foam nozzle. So what is AFFF? That should be a question. What is that, AFFF? What does that stand for? Well, it's an acronym. Now, this is just a brand name, so a lot of companies make the stuff. It comes in a 5-gallon pail, like I mentioned earlier. But AFFF is called aqueous film-forming foam. Aqueous film-forming foam. Somebody decided to say, let's just call it AFFF. I like that somebody's idea, because aqueous film-forming foam, it's a mouthful, but it does describe what it does. It is a water-based product. It creates a film-forming foam when properly mixed. Now, this happens to be a 6% solution, which means coming out of the hose, I'm getting 94 gallons of water, or 94% water, 6% AFFF, making bubbles. It's all it's doing. It's making big bubbles. And those bubbles, they don't break very easy. It's not like soap bubbles. Well, it is kind of looks like it, but they're pretty strong. They have a lot of resilience. So the whole purpose of using AFFF is to disrupt that fire tetrahedron. So we want to create a barrier between a fuel source and the air. Because without air and without fuel, you got no fire. So typically in a bilge fire or an engine room fire, if you've got oil in the bilge, you've got a Class Bravo fire going on, or fuel in the bilge, it's some kind of petroleum product. A Bravo fire, the primary firefighting agent, would be aqueous film forming foam. You lay down a blanket of AFFF, a big thick barrier, a blanket of bubbles, and you break that communication between the source of the fuel and the air. So you starve it out, you choke it out. Just choke it out, right? So like I said, it is the primary firefighting agent for a Class Bravo fire. Now, one thing you want to keep in mind is once you do lay down a blanket of AFFF on the bilge, you need to maintain that barrier. So you don't want to go in there shooting water in there, disrupting that blanket of bubbles, because now you're letting air back in, and now you got a reflash, right? That's what we don't want. We put a fire out. It's a pretty stressful event. We don't need a part two, right? We don't want to have a reflash, right? If we're going to put it out, by God, let's put it out, right? So one thing that I mentioned was an inline proportioner. So on Fire Station 7, I took it off the Y gate. So this threads on to the Y gate. I got fire main going through here, and this is just like an adductor. That's all it is like a mini adductor. So it creates a low pressure zone right here as fire main shooting through here. You can see it gets wider at this end. And I got low pressure at this end. So then if I stick this pickup tube inside the barrel of AFFF, I've got my concentrated solution coming out the other end of whatever hose is hooked up here. So I'd hook my hose up here, and I'd throttle my flow with the nozzle downstream, with my Very nozzle, right? And that's all that is to it. It is considered a pump, but it's not a mechanical pump. It's using the flow of water through there, using that Venturi effect. It creates low pressure right here, so atmospheric pressure is pushing that AFFF concentrate into the discharge side, and downstream it goes. So aqueous film forming foam. Now, I thought it was kind of interesting that on the label right here it says this end up. So that's all I got to say about that.